Greetings, my fellow Fright Fiends. It's your buddy Boogeyman Ben here for a new episode of Boogeyman Ben's Horror Zone, and today's video is going to be talking about The Walking Dead. I specifically want to talk about the mid-season finale for Season 8. It's called How's It Gotta Be, and then also talking about just the Walking Dead series in general. I've been a fan of The Walking Dead since it first started back in 2010. I have every season on DVD right here. And I've been a huge fan of the show and have followed it consistently. Initially, I was kind of hesitant to get into The Walking Dead because I wasn't a fan of zombies. As much as a horror fan that I am, I was never a really big zombie movie fan. So the thing that hooked me, and I think I've mentioned it in previous videos, is that I was a huge fan of Frank Darabont. And the fact that he was involved in it was what sort of made me interested in checking out the series premiere. And I've been hooked ever since. I think it's a great show. Also, I'm a huge fan of the Walking Dead comic. I've been collecting that probably since the second season. So I'm caught up, I think maybe sans a couple issues of where the series has gone. And I was always curious how they were going to handle some things that were in the comics on the show. And they've deviated. There's some things that have played out pretty closely to how they happen in the comics, and then maybe it would happen with a different character. But for the most part, I think the series has been handled very well by the three showrunners, Darabont, Scott Gimple, and Glenn Massaren, who I think all three of them have done a good job. I'm really disappointed that Frank Darabont was not allowed to continue being the showrunner for longer than he was. That's always been a big issue for me, but again, that had something to do with him and AMC. I think Scott Gimple has done a great job. I thought Glenn Massara did a great job as well. The thing that I'm starting to notice now is that it seems like fans are turning on the show, or at least some people are. And it really sort of kicked into high gear in season 6. The first half of that season was done from a different sort of viewpoint, where the first 8 episodes all happened within the same 48-hour period, and a lot of people didn't really care for the way that story was told. I thought it was really refreshing and different, and I really liked the style that was utilized there. And I think the real big turn for some fans is the introduction of Negan, especially at the end of season 6 in the final episode, which was a cliffhanger. And then, of course, in season 7, when Negan was front and center and the Saviors kind of took over, and our heroes were put in peril or put into a situation where they had no control over what was going on. Season 7 was a very hard season to watch, but I really liked it. I think I'm one of the few people that actually really enjoyed the season, even though the proceedings were difficult. It was hard to watch this happen to Rick's group of groups and characters that we have come to really love over the last 6 years. But again, having the knowledge that I had from the comic books, I knew it was going to happen. I didn't know how it was going to play out, but the way that it did, especially the premiere episode of season 7, was heartbreaking and really tough. And I think it turned a lot of people off because people came to The Walking Dead wanting to watch a zombie show, people surviving in a zombie apocalypse. But it makes more sense that you also have another group, you have a new villain, you have people that are also surviving and how they're dealing with things. Plus, as you think, as time goes on and the more walkers that are killed and things like that, there's going to be less of them walking around. So you're going to have these situations where you're up against another group of survivors. And I feel like the show did it really well of introducing the Saviors in season 6. And then Negan being sort of like the final, F you to Rick and the group for what they had done at the end of season 6. Because Rick and his group had gotten really cocky. And you saw it when they got to Alexandria. You saw it all through season 6, where they felt like they had a handle on everything. They knew how to handle everything because they'd been through it. And I think it was almost like a wake-up call that was needed for the group. That's why for me, season 7, as heartbreaking as it was needed. And I really felt like they did a great job. I think the writing was great. I think the directing was great. And I really was looking forward to All Out War, which was kind of led up to at the end of season 7 and then kicked off in this season in season 8. And the backlash for season 8 is really surprising me. There's so many people that say they don't understand like what's happening and that it's slow, and they don't understand where everybody got their weapons, and that it's just raining bullets and things like that. And then they have the character episodes like the one with Father Gabriel and Negan, and then they have the one with Eugene, and they say they're too slow, nothing's happening, nothing's moving forward. And I really think the writing and the action were fantastic in season 8, and I really don't get what people are complaining about. I think it's just the cool thing now to complain about this series, and it's people not paying attention to little details. It was very clear how Rick and the crew got their ammunition and their guns and everything. So I don't understand why people don't understand, where the bullets and where the guns came from. I just don't think people are paying attention, or they're angry because of the direction that the show's going, which has always been kind of a hit or miss with some fans. There's some fans that really hated the governor, and they were really disappointed at the end of season 3 when the governor wasn't killed. And then they were disappointed when there was 2 solo governor episodes in season 4, and people were like, oh, I hate this show, it sucks, all this stuff. And I think that's just people's way of saying they're disappointed in something. But the backlash for season 8 has been very surprising, because there's been so many seasons where people are saying, oh, not enough action is happening, all the group is split up and we don't like that. And in this season, I feel like in season 8 they really made an effort to have all of these big groups. So you have the Kingdom, you have the Hilltop, and you have Alexandria all together. Everybody is working together to bring down the Saviors, and people are still complaining now that there's too much action, there's not enough character development, that it's lazy writing. And I just don't get it. I really don't get where all this hatred is coming from. And it's not just from fans. It's like some of the critics, too, that watch the show are just saying that not enough is happening, the show's gone off the rails. And I just, as a fan of the show, I really don't get it. And it's a story, it's a storytelling, it's a television show. You can't have all your answers. And I feel like for the most part, you have to just see how things play out. And then with the mid-season finale, I really was surprised how they ended it, just because I know how the comic books go, and I was surprised that this one character was pretty much the casualty of this season, that we were promised on Talking Dead last week, saying that there was going to be a huge ending to the season 8 finale that was going to, or the mid-season finale of season 8, that was going to stick with us. And it did. I mean, I really thought it was really well handled. And I was shocked that it was Carl. I really was, because from the comic books, Carl is pretty much, he's almost an extension of Rick. And once Rick is gone, Carl is being set up in the comics as the leader. And to take Carl down this way was ballsy. And I thought it was really well handled. I think Chandler Riggs did some of his best acting. A lot of people were really hard on that poor kid. And I think he's been he's grown on the show exponentially. I mean, he started on the show when he was like 11 years old. And I think he's done a fantastic job. In this last episode, I really thought he did a great job. It's one of the best acting I think he's done. And really showed that Carl is a leader. And the fact that he saves everybody in Alexandria from the Savior's wrath, and to end it where you see that he has been bitten by a walker is heartbreaking, and I know it's going to piss off a lot of people. But for all the people that were saying it was predictable and that the show was following the comics too closely, especially in the last couple seasons where things have played out a little similarly to how they have been in the comics. And I was worried about it too, because there are some things that happen in the comics that I don't know if they'll translate well to the show. And I think this was a really smart route to go. As much as I don't want to see Chandler leave the show, as much as I really like the Carl character, and he's one of the, original characters that started us on this journey. it's heartbreaking to watch. I don't know really where the backlash is coming from for this show right now. I don't know. I don't know if it's AMC's business practices, which have been all over the news, especially with Frank Darabont suing AMC. So people are aware of just, how they've kind of cut corners and, made a lot of money off The Walking Dead while not really putting much more money into the show, which is a kind of a bullshit business practice. But again, it doesn't affect me. I have nothing to do with it. It's not my money. I still like the show, and I think the cast is such a great cast. I really just don't get like all the hate all of a sudden for this, because the cast is so dedicated to this show and they are working their asses off to bring everybody the best product possible, in my opinion. And then you have like the new cast members. I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I think he's fantastic as Negan, and I think he's a breath of fresh air in terms of a villain. I really liked the governor, but I just think Negan is so much more interesting, and there's so many more layers to him that we're slowly finding out that, the big, act of him with the bat, and just how, over the top he is an act for his people to see that he has control of the situation. And as you saw in the episode with him and Gabriel, he does have layers to him. There is a pain behind that facade of this over-the-top baddie. And I really like that, and I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan is a fantastic actor, and I think he brings a lot to the show right now. And I think it was something that was needed, because he really is the penultimate villain. And with any villain that you have, it's not just that they're a bad guy. There's different layers to them, and I think that you can look at, how the saviors are. The saviors, the thing that's great about them is that they have rules, just like Rick and his group have rules. It's not like they're just going to kill everybody. If they're attacked, yes, they're going to retaliate, but if they have control of the situation, they have their rules. Yes, they're going to take somebody down, but they also don't want to kill everybody, because they want to use these people for their benefit, to help them, keep their crops going, or to help serve them in whatever capacity, be it, soldier or be it worker. That's the way that they work. And I think that's really interesting. And for some reason, people just don't understand that. You can't just have baddies that are just going to kill everybody. I read so many comments on these boards that are just like, oh, they should have just killed everybody. If you think about it from somebody that's leading a group of people that are trying to survive, killing everybody does not make sense. Taking somebody and making an example of them makes more sense, and that's what the saviors tend to do. But again, I really liked season 8 so far, the first half of season 8, and I know there are fans out there that really love the show still, but with the ratings being up and down, people aren't watching the show as much as they used to. I think a lot of people are just watching television different ways, and a lot of people are frustrated by some of the the storytelling techniques that Gimple has put in place. So I think a lot of people might be binge watching them. Everybody is DVRing it for sure. But again, it's like with any show, you go 8 years in a show and people are going to, sort of get tired of it. And it's like it's happened with shows that I've really loved, like 24. 24 was a show that I loved, and I watched it all the way through. But I remember around season 6, critics and audiences started turning on it. It's just like with anything that goes for almost 8-9 years. I mean, we're going on a decade of The Walking Dead being on television and being the biggest show on television, and that's a peak that you're going to fall from at some point. That doesn't mean that the show isn't good anymore. It just means that casual viewers have lost interest, because there is no finite end resolution that's coming. It's going on, just like the comic books have gone on, as far as we can see for the time being. I really, again, don't get the backlash. I really think it's just people being frustrated with the show, and that's understandable with any show. You're not going to like all of the decisions that are being made. I mean, there was a show called True Blood that I was a huge fan of when it premiered in 2008. I thought the first 3 seasons of that show were fantastic. The last seasons of that show were just terrible. I couldn't stand the way that show ended. I thought it was very lazily written. When they changed showrunners, it got even worse, because once Alan Ball left that show, it got absolutely terrible. And the last season of that show was one of the worst seasons I ever saw. But I didn't go on message boards and bash people that loved the show. That's just not the way that I am. But I did watch the show through the end of it, but I didn't go and complain and complain and complain and complain. And that's all people just seem to be doing, is complaining about things that they have no control over. You either like the show or you don't. If you hate the show so much you don't like the direction it's going, stop watching it. I mean, that's all you can do at this point, because yes, the producers are listening to you, but they have an agenda of, you know, how these stories are going to play out. I mean, that's just the way it is. But yeah, just the constant complaints, and some of these are just really juvenile complaints when I read them, and I don't know why I read them. I'm just curious, I guess. But you know, even with the mid-season finale, people were saying it was too dark. You couldn't see what was going on. I could see everything that was going on, and you know, then it's like there's episodes, oh, it's too much in the daylight, it's too dark, you know, too many weapons, not enough weapons, too much action, wish there was more action, not enough zombies, there's too many zombies. It's like people just want to find something to complain about at this point, and it's kind of sad that, you know, that's what we've come to as a society. Just go on a message board and bitch about something verbatim, and then you have other people that just sort of pick up on that and go and complain, and I'm just, at some point I have to just tune it out, because I'm just like, they're just complaining for the sake of complaining. Something's not going their way and they're going to complain about it. So yeah, I really thought the mid-season finale of season 8 of The Walking Dead was fantastic. A fantastic season that was completely action-packed. I loved the structure of it. I know it was very similar to the way that Gimple structured the first half of season 6. It's not everybody's cup of tea, that's cool, but I really like the way it went. I'm really excited for when the series picks up again in February of 2018. You know, it's a tragedy that Carl is gone, and I'm sure that, you know, you're going to see more about that in the first episode, because he obviously didn't die at the end of the mid-season finale, but you did see that he was bitten and he is dying. But I really just thought he was great in this fantastic episode. I love that you saw all of the different groups, like, you know, you saw Ezekiel, you saw the Hilltop, you saw Alexandria, everybody, you know, the repercussions of starting the war with the Saviors. And I really thought it was cool to see how everything played out, how the Saviors came back. But, you know, it doesn't seem like everybody's just ready to lay down and accept this. And I thought that was really cool, showcasing that. So yeah, I had no problems with the mid-season finale. I think the show is fantastic. I hope it goes for several more seasons. And I can't wait to see where they pick up with this with the second half. So that is my thoughts on The Walking Dead and the mid-season finale. I'm curious what everyone else has to say about this television show, The Walking Dead. If you're a fan of it, that's cool. If you're not a fan of it, that's cool. Please leave your thoughts in the comment section below about this video. I really appreciate everyone taking the time to watch this. And as always, thanks so much for watching Boogeyman Ben's Horror Zone, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take it easy. Stay scared as always. Peace.